We are in game 3 in this best-of-5 matchup between David Gibson and Trey Wright. Trey Wright leads 2-0, and he leads here in game 3 by 17 points only, 304 to 287.
Trey knows that the last blank is out there somewhere, and it's not on his rack. His objective now, close those bingo lanes. Don't let David have a big scoring opportunity. You see Trey's rack here.
Historically, Trey known as more of an offensive player, David a defensive player. They've kind of switched roles now as Trey plays Gov.
Trey knows he's got an advantage. He's got the Z on his rack and the S on his rack, the last S in the game. Those could prove extremely fruitful for Trey. And what he's done here with Gov is block 3 bingo lanes at once.
David known as a defensive player, as we mentioned, but sometimes when you're trailing in a match, you have to change up your strategy, and David knows that better than anybody else.
If you're behind by 100 or so, you've got to keep it open. You've got to make, you give up some points if you have to. Keep the bingo towels on your rack. Again, sacrificing points if you have to. You've got to keep it open and try to hope to get back in it with a couple of bingos. Other than that, you know, it's hopeless.
Well, David is not trailing by 100 points. He is trailing, and he knows every move at this point is very critical towards this national championship.
He's finally gotten some good letters to go with that blank. But still, he's looking at that. There are actually 7 possible 7-letter words in there. Cologne, colonnes, colonel, condole, coronel, monocle, console. But he can't play them, so we look at the other possibilities. Louis, lot, and Clonk. Clonk's the highest scoring among those plays. Louis does the best to balance, though. He knows there's some vowels in the bag, so he might want to get rid of some of those vowels.
But isn't he thinking mainly about points right here?
Points, but setting himself up also. This is a real cat and mouse game at the end. Trey's closing down places to play. David needs to open them up. He knows the Z is out there and the S is out there. He doesn't have them. He's got to give himself a chance to bingo in order to win.
All right, so here comes David Gibson, and he does put out Kalonk, and that scores 23 points, and that makes it just a 1-point game. Trey Wright leading 311 to 310. So now the action back to Trey Wright, who was just 1 game away from winning the national championship.
Nail-biting time. Look at that rack. Believe it or not, there's actually a bingo in that stuff. With an A, he could play albizias, which is a kind of tropical tree, and I'm sure Trey knows that word.
That makes 2 of you.
No A, though. So Trey is trying to figure out what to do. He's got B-I-Z set up in the front. That could be an indication that he's looking for a block.
And that's key here also. I mean, since Trey has the ability to score, blocking might be a best choice here.
Yeah, B-I-Z-E closes off the possibility of making an 8-letter word ending in E. Bales scores 29 points, and it blocks that S column. But for David to use that S column, he'd have to have the 5th letter be an S. That's the only possibility. Less risky, so he does go with closing off the opportunity at the top. B-I-Z-E, buys. That's a kind of wind, a cold wind.
And so Trey Wright now leads 332 to 310. And the action now back to David Gibson. And now, as you mentioned, the information that the players have becoming more and more concrete as the tiles begin to disappear.
Looks like David's picked up 2 T's and 2 R's, which is not terrible under normal circumstances. But again, everything has to fit perfectly for David. And looking at those letters, this is a tree that's fallen in the forest with nobody to hear it. He's got 6 possible 7-letter words, 22 possible 8-letter words. None of them go down on this board.
Boy, that's frustrating for this former national champion. And he will play Torque for just 9 points. What does that do for him?
Well, it opens up 3 bingo lines through the T in Torque or ending in the O or the R. And you might think that bingos ending in O are tough. But with the pool of letters that's out there right now, David has some familiar words like libretto, anti-hero, Waterloo, and there are others.
Well, David may be at his Waterloo right now if he does not come back and win this game.
Trey's going to block those spots right away. Philo, F-I-L-O, does it. Patio also does it. Those would make Trey a prohibitive favorite going down the stretch.
And all from that rack, huh?
I actually see flea pits in there if there were an E on the board.
Well, if he played patio, the computer says that Trey Wright would have a 95% chance of winning this game and hence the tournament. And right now, Trey's reaching in, not looking for tiles. What's he doing?
He's counting the number of tiles left in the bag. He's actually trying to calculate the possibilities, what moves are likely given what's left in the bag. It's gotten quiet upstairs in the audience room, and they're doing the exact same thing. They're trying to figure out the end game, too.
Stefan, we've mentioned the clock that they're playing on in this championship, but so far, that has not been a factor.
No, it hasn't. They've been very judicious about their use of time. They've left themselves a lot of time to figure out the end game. That's what expert players try to do. You can see the clock there on the right. It's always a good idea to leave 5 to 10 minutes out of the 25 minutes that these players get to complete the game.
Well, Trey Wright was well aware of the strength of the field here at the National Championship and never imagined he'd be here among the final two.
I didn't really expect to get into the finals, so I really haven't done the mental preparation, perhaps, that others may have done. I guess I'm just going to rely on my experience and my word knowledge and try not to be too afraid.
And I think that he's on the right track. Any competitor will tell you you perform at your best when you are most relaxed.
Breathe deeply, don't panic, focus on the play at hand.
And the play at hand right now is Philo, F-I-L-O. Trey right now leads 341 to 319.
It's an alternate spelling of P-H-Y-L-L-O, the pastry dough. It makes it hard for David to lay down a bingo using the T or the R of torque. Hard, but not impossible.
Nice.
The computer's telling us that with all the possible combinations out there, there are 5 bingos that would fit under Philo that end in an R. And most of them are pretty common. Narrator, operator, toreador, nitrator, pronator. There are 13 bingos that would fit on top of Philo going through the T. None of them, though, are using those letters.
That is the rack of David Gibson. Again, he has 3 E's.
Pretty simple choice for David. Play R-E or R-E-E, both in the same place at the top of the board. Playing R-E-E a little riskier because it empties the bag and will give Trey Wright knowledge of exactly what David has on his rack.
Most importantly for David Gibson right now, he needs to make a play that will set up a chance to bingo, which would be his best shot at winning this game. So we'll learn what play David Gibson will make when we come back to the National Scrabble Championship from New Orleans. There you see the board in Game 3 in this final matchup between David Gibson and Trey Wright. Trey Wright leads 2 games to none. He leads 341 to 319, and David Gibson has the most important play all week.
This is the time in a Scrabble game where I think my head's going to explode. This is an incredibly difficult decision for David. After this is over, computers are going to analyze this for days and weeks and still maybe not come up with the right answer to whether he should play R-E or R-E-E, a few letters, but the championship's in the balance.
And David knows he has to give himself a chance to bingo if he wants an opportunity to extend this match to a 4th game.
And what he really needs to do is give himself 2 different places to bingo, 2 places, and Trey would only be able to block 1 of them.
The clock has not been a factor. David Gibson has well over 9 minutes to make the plays.
Plenty of time to think about what to do. Figure out in his head what the possibilities are if he does one of those words or the other.
He is looking at R-E-E and R-E as the 2 most likely candidates to play.
Now, R-E would allow David to play a 7-letter word beginning with an A, an E, an I, or an O. R, ear, ire, or R-E-E, which we see up there. He'd be limited to starting a 7-letter bingo with a T, making tree. But getting rid of that extra E might give him a better shot at having a bingo on either side of the board. He could have takeover through the V on the right. Trey would be powerless to block that.
And you see him nodding his head back and forth. He's having a debate with himself, more or less, on exactly what play is going to be best and give him the best shot to come back and beat Trey Wright.
Yeah, the big disadvantage with playing REE is that it empties the bag. And then Trey doesn't have to worry about what tiles David might have if he's tracked the letters accurately, and you can bet he has at this point. He'll know exactly what's on David's rack.
Upstairs in the observation room, Trey's girlfriend.
And she's talking to Eric Chaikin. He recently co-directed a documentary about Scrabble.
And we talked about the blank in David's rack right now. It's not something he wants to use right now. He would use that for a possible bingo.
Right.
And he will play REE.
We have the advantage of knowing what's left in the bag. He's going to pull out an A, an O, and an I. The crowd has that advantage, too, because they're watching on closed circuit.
None left. Nothing left in the back, right? What? I'll check myself. Oh, yeah.
And Trey knows exactly what's about to happen.
The crowd knows Trey's rack. We know Trey's rack. They know the bingo is there.
Teopans. Teopans.
It's been a pleasure.
And that's exactly what Trey Wright will play and close out this match.
We have a new champion.
Trey Wright sweeps the final matchup against David Gibson, winning the final game 429 to 328. He wins 3 straight games to earn his first National Scrabble Championship and collect a winner's share of $25,000. He is thrilled.
He was a runner-up in 1998. This is a sweet feeling for Trey Wright. You spend years memorizing tens of thousands of words, list after list after list, and it finally pays off.
Trey Wright came into these finals relaxed and confident, and it paid him dividends upon dividends. But take nothing away from David Gibson. Despite a layoff from the game, he is back in top form. This game, though, comes down to luck of the draw, and perhaps if David had pulled some different tiles from the bag, he would be the one celebrating. For second place, he does get $10,000.
Yeah, David was struggling to get the racks that he needed, particularly in this final game. He never really had a chance. He was always on the defensive. Trey was one step ahead of him, closing down bingo lanes, closing down opportunities, making sure that he was in the driver's seat, controlling the board.
An unbelievably euphoric moment for Trey Wright, and there you see the final board. They will always have his name attached to it, and of course his girlfriend and his sister will come downstairs to celebrate with him.
You know, it's a very small community of Scrabble players, of aficionados, and the respect that they're going to have for Trey Wright is just huge. This is an incredible achievement, to beat out 850 other players, to ascend to the very top of this very complex game that also involves a great deal of luck, is enormously gratifying.
Trey will do a short post-mortem on the board. There may have been some opportunities to make stronger plays here and there, but he did what he had to do to earn the points, block his opponent, and ultimately win this coveted title. 857 players came to New Orleans for this National Scrabble Championship. In the end, it is Trey Wright who stands above the rest. Congratulations, Trey Wright is the 2004 National Scrabble Champion. For Stephen Fatsis, I'm Lon McCarran from New Orleans. So long, everybody. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.